Hello, Steve Mullins here with the Health and Safety Channel, back with a video after a good while. Been very busy with attorneys and doctors sending people our way to help them in their situations. Now, today's video is going to be talking about what renters can expect once they inform their landlords that they have a mold situation or a leak situation, depending on what it is. And I'm referring to the bad landlords in this case, not the good ones that are trying to do their job. So keep that in mind. So, depending on the mindset of the landlord, many things can or cannot happen. Now, when you first inform your landlord that there's an issue that you believe is mold or moisture related, you want to document that, which I said before, either by email, text, or some other means that shows you did inform them of that, because that's when their liability starts. Otherwise, they can very simply claim, especially if you just make a phone call, that they never got the call or they don't remember it, whatever the case is. Now, what can happen, depending on how long you've been bothering them, or I say bother, because that's the way they will look at it, or you've been letting them know there's an issue, they can start other processes of trying to get you to move. Now, they can also send out a maintenance man and say, hey, we didn't find anything, or they pretend to do something, or they just try to stall as long as possible. Then, at some point, they may very quickly, as I said, put a 60-day notice for you to vacate on your door, which is them telling you, hey, we need you to move. Now, they can't do that right away if you're under a lease contract, unless you're within the 2 month window of that. But if you're not on a lease contract, they certainly can. However, the law technically prevents them from doing that if you've informed them of an issue, of a mold or water issue on the property, uh, because that is evidence that's basically viewed as retaliation on their part, which is against the law. But you have to have proof of it. Now, that being said, if you get a 60-day notice, this is don't get too excited, yet it can get your attention. What you want to do, if you haven't done it already, which a lot of times you may not, you have a mold inspection done by a professional, hopefully a microbial consultant or industrial hygienist, because they'll be the best ones to evaluate it for you if possible. And when they find at least one or more issues on the property that the landlord has to fix, then you get to take that off of your rent per Renters' Rights of California. It falls under the repair and deduct clause. More about that later in another video. Now, the idea here is that you have informed them, you now have to hire somebody to do an inspection to give you hard evidence showing there is a mold or moisture issue on your property. Now, as I said in another video, the property being damp in various places is a violation of the Health and Safety Code 17920.3. That in itself can make the property uninhabitable, and which I will state on my reports in many instances. So you get the report, you have evidence, testing, and so forth, and although you don't have a blank checkbook to have this done once you inform them, you are allowed to go up to the cost of your rent and twice a year as far as what the repair and deduct clause covers. Now, since you've already informed them there was an issue, they didn't take care of it or not properly, then when they find one or more issues related to what you asked about, then you get to take it off your rent for that reason. So you're not paying out of pocket. That's a nice important thing for renters to know about, which I tell all of them when I talk to renters on the phone. So they're not inhibited by the cost of it because they're not paying out of their pocket. Now, once you get that report, you now have legal leverage, meaning proof that you have mold issues in your property. Now, you can stop paying your rent to force them to make repairs, even if the property is still habitable. Now, you have to let them know you're doing it, and there's a procedure to follow in renters' rights. But basically, you type them on a note. You have already given them the mold report that says, hey, there's issues they need to fix. And so you can do that. But there's like I said, a procedure to follow. However, if I state the property is not habitable, which I do probably 80 to 85% of the time for renters, then you can whenever you stop paying rent, technically you don't owe them anything at that point until they bring the property back into a habitable condition, meaning they fix everything and follow what the report says. Now, now when I state the property is not habitable, I state it from the standpoint of my expertise, not from a legal standpoint of where I can enforce it, because I cannot. But it normally is proven in court, where you go to court, whether it be eviction court or other court, the report's there, I testify, and that's basically how it's proven with the hard evidence that we have. Now, again, going back to the topic, what can you expect? Well, once you stop paying rent, they may still try to get rid of you because now you're a big headache. Because they don't want to have to pay maybe thousands of dollars or much more to fix an issue, plus with the prospect of you suing them. So you stop paying rent, they may put what they call a 3-day or quit notice on your door, meaning you pay within the next 3 days or you move out. That's what they're wanting you to do. Now, if you don't do it at that point, they can maybe go ahead and file eviction papers. Now, legally, they can't do any of this that I'm talking about once you've informed them of an issue that they have not fixed. But again, there has to be proof of that in most cases. And that's why we're talking about the inspection that companies like mine do to provide that proof. Now, they file eviction paperwork. There's other things you can do to mitigate that, but the idea is you're now going to court. They're saying, "Hey, look, we're going to evict you." Now, a lot of renters are freaked out when that happens. They get so freaked out that they go ahead and move and leave and don't want to deal with it. Now, with recent fires that we've had, that's a difficult thing because a lot of rental properties are being taken up right now for that reason. Very bad what's been happening the last couple of months. Now, going back to this again, with the notice that they give you when they file eviction paperwork, there's going to be a court date set in the very near future, usually within a month or so. However, what you can do is request a jury trial when responding. That's something that they're pushing for these days. And so, again, not an attorney, but you can request that, which can push out a couple months, which will continue to hurt their pocketbook. Because they don't really want to go before a judge and have that report and the testimony from an expert like myself. But that's why once you get the report, you want to send it to them. That way they know what they're up against. Now, some may still separately go ahead with an eviction, but they get to court and you have, your inspector there to testify, or or they know the testimony is coming. Then they don't want to do that because they'll be found in violation of law and be ordered to do a lot of times what the report says. So these are things you can expect, but it is best when you stop paying your rent, if you have those reasons to do so, is to have an attorney write a letter. Now, I have a legal service I can connect you to. They can do a lot for you for a very low price. So you can always send me an email at the link below, and I can respond to that. And that's the inexpensive way of dealing with it, depending on what you're trying to accomplish going through this process, whether you're just trying to get it fixed or get compensation. Anyway, just want to let you know that's what you can expect potentially from the bad landlords. But it's a matter of knowing how to deal with it and knowing that it may be coming and how to effectively deal with it. Okay, that's all for now. Have a good day, folks, and stay safe.